sorry. had a problem with some technology here, man.
I love that.
So I was saying, we've both been down different creative paths, and whether it's, being musicians, recording artists, singers, photographers, what do you think today it takes to make a living in art or being an artist in that shape or form?
It takes drive. Like, I think it takes hustle. You've really got to find different ways of income as far as when it comes to like doing different things to like stay active. If you're not going to do like the typical 9-to-5 job and you're going to rely on like your creative talents and gifts to kind of get you to what you want to do.
Yeah.
I know people that will work a number of jobs with their degree. Like, I do freelance work. So I'm not just doing one particular job. I'm seeking out other jobs where I'm shooting video here, or I'm taking photos here, or I'm doing a show, like playing music. But I think it's leaving yourself open, but also staying aggressively busy, like just trying to like stay busy, stay active, and not be stagnant.
Yeah. Do you find that, because you just mentioned like, 4 or 5 different things and saying do different things in art, but would you say that artists in general, because you and I both do lots of different things in art,
Yeah.
This podcast for me, photography, I've gone into, you're doing video, you're doing photography, you're a great singer. Thanks. You're a musician, you've done production stuff. Do you feel like an artist can kind of jump into any facet of art pretty seamlessly if they have that true artist's mind? And what would that artist's mind be in your opinion?
Oh, I totally feel like they can. I feel like there's something different when it comes to creatives. I've always said this, when it comes to creatives, we see the world differently. And when you have a lens that's a little bit more broader as far as like what you see and how creatives see things, I think the possibilities are endless, just because we're able to, or it's almost like we're chameleons where we can adapt. Whereas, there's some people that are just so straight cookie cutter with what they do. I mean, creatives in a lot of ways, we're almost, you can do a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
that's why I feel like there's no excuses. Like when it comes to doing this, like I was talking, my girlfriend and I were talking the other day, and she was like, I worked a corporate job. She saw me, for close to a year at that job and knew like I wasn't happy. Like it wasn't fulfilling me, like with my creative process. Mm-hmm. And the company ended up going through some budget cuts, and I was the first to be let go. And she actually, instead of like, saying, "Oh, I'm so sorry," she was like, "I'm glad this happened." Mm-hmm. And as soon as that happened, I just started getting booked, like for just jobs that I'm more happy to be doing, like photography or shooting video for a client, music and stuff. So I think she saw it before I saw it. And I think like moving forward, like with what I do, I want to be creating, like not necessarily on my terms, but whatever and whoever I'm working with, I want to be doing it through my lens along with theirs, but bringing my talents to the table, because you can get pigeonholed working for a company that's telling you how to do it, how they want it. And they may see it this way, where as a lot of the times, and no disrespect, I saw things another way.
Sure.
And
a creative struggle,
but yet at the same time, it's not my company, not my business.
Right.
So I would adhere to like what they thought. And the criticism was criticism, but I think like as creatives, people are always entitled to their opinion. And, I have this quote by Erykah Badu, where she says, keep in mind I'm an artist, so I'm sensitive about my shit. When it comes to a corporate world, you can't be sensitive about it.
Right.
You know, but at the same time, like, I think being in the space now that I'm at, where I have a little bit more control over like how things go, it's like people are hiring me because they trust my process.
Right.
And so I think that's the best part right now about where I'm at with being a creative. And I think as creatives in general, it's important to not lose sight just not lose sight of who you are as a creative and what you want your mark to be in what you do.
Makes sense, man. I think you were talking about the corporate job you were working in.
Yeah.
And was that a creative job or not?
It was a creative. So
okay,
it was a marketing agency basically. But they work more so in the world of art.
Yeah. So I think there's that, and then there's like the true non-creative type jobs, the analytical jobs. And I'm curious to know, because for me this was the case, is like I worked in a few different jobs before that weren't in the creative field.
Yeah.
And I was miserable. And I don't know if it's because I took the path of least resistance for me, and that got me to where I am today. But I physically would not want to go to work every single day, because I was like, I didn't know if I didn't find purpose in it, or I wasn't finding a creative outlet for it, or what it was specifically, but it wasn't resonating with my personality. So I'm curious if, like, you know, other creatives who are in a more analytical field that doesn't require as much creativity, so to speak, would kind of feel pigeonholed in that realm.
100%, man. Yeah. Like, you hit it on the head. Like, doing analytic work, that's another thing.
Yeah.
You were doing that. There's no way I'd survive in something like that. I was an actual like creative agency. So we were having these meetings where we would talk about plans and like how we wanted to do things. So I was like, just a little bit, you know, I would create reels for like some really big companies. At first it's fun. You know, first you're like, oh, wow, I'm starting to do that. Then they start putting like they start kind of micromanaging.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say that. I'm not using that in a negative way, but they start micromanaging your work and telling you how they want it. And it's not your business. So you're having to like deal with the pressure of like trying to please your superiors,
right,
and whatnot.
Yeah, because when you're doing freelance, they know what they're coming to you.
They're coming to you because they trust who you are and what you do,
and they see what you've done. So like, this is what I want. So just do your thing, because this is what you can do.
Whereas this one, it's like,
we know what we want.
We know what we want, and then we're going to do a review and tell you like all the things that you're good at and all the things that you're not good at your job. And there's a lot of like, I wouldn't say it's demeaning, but I think like
it's stifling. It's stifling as an artist, right?
But at the same time, these are qualified people who have like who have the right to kind of like critique your work the way that they do, but not as, you know, like I said, as creatives, I think we as our own, like, I don't want to be told like what to do. Like, I trust who I am, you know, like I think I'd gotten to that point where I felt confident in the stuff that I would put out. But I think like around the time right before they let me go, I was kind of at a place where I was like, regardless of what I put out, they're not going to like it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm going to get critiqued and it's going to be, you know, I'm going to have to redo it, you know, and here I was like stressing out over like a 15-second reel,
right?
You know, a 10-second reel or a minute reel. The audio is bad. You know, it's like the ideas, you know, weren't necessarily my ideas. It was like basically following through someone's like step. And by no means am I complaining about that. That's the company's job. But at the same time, like my girlfriend said, she would. The thing is, we both worked together in the same company. Yeah. She worked in a different division, but she would see me because we would also go to work together sometimes. And I think she saw just how unhappy I was.
Yeah.
But I was also in this space of comfortability where I was just comfortable with that paycheck. Yeah. Comfortable with the fact that I had medical insurance.
Right.
And she could tell that I was just, I was kind of like stuck, rock in a hard place, but I was also kind of stuck on my own terms, that I wasn't making the initiative to like seek out and try to find something else that fulfills me. And now I'm in this space. I call it like I'm like a free agent, not necessarily even to the point. She's like, I don't even think you should work for anyone. Like you're someone who has to do this on your own.
Yeah, for
like
sure.
You're that kind of creative.
You are, for sure.
And I was like, she's right.
Yeah.
And so right now, like outside of doing the freelance work that I'm doing, I think in the music and stuff, when it comes to stuff in the creative world on the other side of outside of music, I'm looking into some things that, you know, are more catered towards what I do.
Yeah, good. Well, and I want to talk about those things. I think going back to the initial question about like, you know, making a living in music and being able to wear different hats, lots of different hats. Because not only, especially if you're running your own thing, from a creative standpoint, if you're running your own business, you have to think the business side of things, which is a completely different kind of hat you have to wear, right? Mm-hmm. But from a practical approach, say someone's listening right now that because someone's a singer. They want to be a singer. You're a singer. Yeah. Someone wants to be a producer. They can't sing, but they can make music, you know? So I'd say, let's go through each kind of thing. And in your experience, how is the landscape changed today? Like, for example, as a singer, to get gigs or to, you know, make a living and say that facet, let's just say you were just a singer and that's the only, you know, skill set you had as a creative, let's just say, you know, the way a singer made money 15 years ago or 10 years ago or even 5 years ago is different than it is today. Yeah. So what do you think, you know, aside from, you know, taking gigs at like, you know, the local bar or, you know, doing weddings as a band or something like that, what are some practical ways that you think a singer could make a living today's landscape?
Well, there's a number of ways you can do that. But given the fact of like how the world has changed and how social media, and there's so many platforms now. Right. One that's really easy. And I'm only talking about like young up and coming, like artists who really don't have like, resources or people to go to. Yeah. I'd get your phone, I'd get TikTok, and I would record yourself singing a song every day. If you're talented enough, sure, people will come and watch you. You generate those views. People continue to come back to you. You never know who's watching, especially in all of those. But when it comes down to that, it's not about how good the song is as far as like the song that you're singing. It's about your talent and what you're putting out there. What you're bringing, how you're presenting it. And a lot of the times too, what I'm finding is it's just putting that camera in front of you and just singing, and just it's about people love rawness, the rawness of like someone getting out there. I think when things are too curated, you know,
people pick up on that.
People pick up on that, and it just too much fluff. Where I think, you know, the more that you're just showing who you are and yourself, like singing and what you do, I think that actually shows like the real talent, and that's with no music. Right. So see, you can't play anything. I would put that phone down, sing in front of it. If you want to like have an instrumental track, press play on your laptop, 15 seconds of a song, the best part of the song, and post every day. Consistency is the key with everything that you do. Yeah. And I think it's about creating like a discipline to be able to like see the results that you want to see. But you can't go in with expectations of, I'm going to do this 10 videos and I'm going to get, you know, someone's going to sign me. If nothing happens in the 10 videos and you quit, like that doesn't help. So I say you have to go in with blinders. Yeah. I always tell people, go in with blinders. Don't look at other people's like sites for like that are your close friends. Look for people who are bigger than you that and use them as an inspiration. Mm-hmm. People that are, you know, still kind of on the come up. Try to like find inspirations on that end, but you have to be consistent. You have to be disciplined, and you can't you can't care about what other people think.
Yeah, I think that's great. And in that case, in cases like that, like where you're posting stuff, it's like truly the talent will shine, you know? And I'd say like,
Cream always rises to the top.
yeah. And I can tell you from my personal standpoint, from like where I got to. So, you know, the arc of from being in Big Red Rooster,
Yeah.
you know, when I was playing in a band, you know, we had played a bunch of shows together back in the day
Right.
at Curtain Club and Granada. So when the band started to fizzle out, and so I was working, I don't know if you know this, but I was working at Sony BMG. I was working at Sony Music.
Yeah.
So I was working in the, it was in the marketing side. So I got an internship in college, and then I went out of college straight to that while we were doing the band. And then, the physical sales industry, which is the marketing I was in for, like CDs, you know, started to die. Everybody was just
Streaming.
ripping stuff off LimeWire and all that good
Yeah.
stuff, right?
Yeah.
So they were cutting back. I got let go, and this was from the biggest purchaser. It was for Walmart, the distributor that distributed Walmart. So it was like the biggest buyers of sellers in the country still, and it was still dying. And they were like, okay, we're on a sinking ship. So I was focusing purely on the band for a while, and we were touring and all that stuff, and then my Sony calls me back, and they're like, okay, we think we're able to salvage some revenue. We want you back. So they hired me back, and I eked out another year or two of that. And so this was on the physical sales side of thing. And that's how anybody was making music as an artist, as a band, you were selling CDs, right?
Yeah.
And then came iTunes. This was before streaming, right? People were just buying iTunes. And I remember like when we were on the sinking ship of physical sales, we were having a meeting with the iTunes sales guys, the marketing for iTunes. And they're like, you guys he wasn't saying it meanly, but he's like, you guys are dinosaurs. This is a sinking ship. Not only did he didn't know that he was on a sinking ship too, because digital sales are done too. It's all streaming now too, right?
Yeah.
So anyway, so I left Sony, and I was like, with just the band, I was like, what am I going to do for a living? I was like, I have no clue. So I was producing all the band's music, and I was practicing hours and hours a day on the piano to catch up, because I'd been, you know, I hadn't been playing piano for too long when I joined the band. So I was like, okay, I can play the piano, and I'm starting to produce pretty decently. How can I turn this into something? And so at the time, I started grinding. I was like networking in New York to ad agencies and trying to get my music into beds and stuff, you know, like just placements on TV and stuff like that. And that was in 2010. And I started to get some placements and make a living that way by just networking, ad agencies, small jingle houses who signed publishing deals with. Some were exclusive, some were not. And I made a pretty decent amount of money from that. But now that market became completely oversaturated, where it's like, you know, people are making music all the time, and you can go find, you know, music. You go to TikTok, you load up a TikTok, and you find background music for free, you know, license free and all that stuff. So I'm like, that ship sailed. So like trying to adapt to the times each time was a tough thing, because the technology changes. You've got to adapt, right?
Yeah.
And now with like the advent of AI, you've got a whole bunch of creatives who are going to be out of work and are going to have to adapt to that, because it's just the way it's happening.
Technology is a beast.
It's a beast. It's like, it's a blessing and a curse, right?
It totally is.
Like for me to be able to record a professional album from my studio here was unheard of 20 years ago. So the blessing is that everybody can have access to professional recording equipment, but the curse is everybody has access to professional recording equipment.
Exactly.
Right?
I think it just basically comes down to what you're putting out.
True. At the end of the day, the good stuff's going to shine through.
The good stuff is going to shine through. And also, you know, with the people in networking that you've done, that I've done, like those kind of things hold true. And if you hold on to the certain relationships and whatnot, and you didn't burn any bridges, those are always good to have in your pocket.
For sure. When you think about the changing landscape of something like AI, where I've got for this podcast, for example, I have something called Autopod. It's basically an auto editor that knows how to edit and do the cuts, because there's 3 angles right now.
Yeah.
That would usually take like at least as long as the video. So if this video is 2 hours long to edit, it would take at least that amount of time. Now with this Autopod, it's like you set the parameters for it, and it takes like 30 seconds.
It's amazing.
Which is great, but you know, the editors are like, crap, what am I going to do? You know, if you're a full-time editor. So I think going back to what you said as a creative is you have to wear lots of hats and adapt and be like, what else can I do that's creative? Because I think as a creative, whether it's editing film or doing lighting or production or photography, I think we all find our creative outlet through something artistic and creative. So I think you can kind of adapt to that if the robots have taken over your job.
No, I know,
you
man.
know, it's crazy. What was one pivotal moment when you knew that singing, music, was it because you see as an artist now you're doing lots of different things, but for you music was like your first thing.
Music
right?
was my first thing. Yeah.
What was it? What was your calling? Like, what was it that one? For me, it was, 7th grade, my buddy JJ on the guitar. He started playing like Bush and Weezer on the guitar over the phone. We had landlines, and I was like, wait, you can play a song and it sounds exactly like it?
Yeah.
What? And I was like, this is amazing. So I got a guitar. He started teaching me. I started taking lessons, and that was it for me. I was like, went down that hole. And that was so did you have like that pivotal moment? You're like, this is what I want to do.
I think that kind of like idea was formed within some time. So like when I was young, my uncle, he lived like next door to us, and I remember going over to his house and listening to albums and stuff. It was Michael Jackson. It was like one of the first things. And so hearing Michael Jackson and listening to that music was really cool. Just to be able to, hear his voice. I think it was Thriller. And then my mom and my uncle were both like in a musical gospel group. So I'd always been around music. Mm-hmm. It wasn't really until I remember I was in high school, and I believe one of the guys who I remember I got asked to sing in this a cappella group, and one of the guys who was supposed to sing the lead couldn't because he'd gotten sick or something. And I remember they were like, well, who can sing? Larry, do you think you can do it? I'm just a freshman in high school. And I'm like, I'm just like, yeah, sure. All these senior guys and stuff or juniors asking me to do it. So they let me listen to this tape, and it's this soulful a cappella group. And the song was Shut the Door. Keep Out the Devil. It was a gospel song. And I remember listening to it. And then I remember just like feeling something from listening to it. And we started performing, like rehearsing it. And the guys were just like, what? Like, never knew you could sing like that.
Did you know you could sing like that?
No, I didn't, man. I didn't.
And when people hear that, they're like, bullshit. It's so funny. I was watching a video yesterday of this kid, Benson Boone. I don't know if you've heard, but he's like this. Beautiful Thing is a huge song, right? And supposedly when he was trying out on American Idol, he was like, yeah, I've been singing for a couple of years. I just didn't know I could sing, kind of a thing. And I was like, everybody's like, Are you bullshitting?
It's
right
true.
Yeah.
It's true, man. I did not know.
That's hilarious.
And then the other thing was then after that, like I remember we ended up performing it in church. The reaction that I got was like, whoa, wow, so that was kind of like the start. And then in college, fast forward my freshman year again, there was this talent show, and I remember signing up to just do it, and I went to do this Brian McKnight song.
Nice.
And
I Believe I Can Fly. Yeah.
So I go up there, and like the whole basketball team, like they were seated out there, and all the, everyone from the school is there, and they're like, so what song you do? I'm like, I'm going to do One Last Cry by Brian McKnight. And everyone's like, oh, and they're like, you better sing that. Like, you're hearing people like, this guy's gonna sing. And I had like the worst haircut that day, so I was wearing this cap and I had my like eyes down. I was so shy, zero confidence, except like singing. Like I knew I could sing. And
that's great.
I remember the tape messed up, and it went to another song of his called Never Felt This Way. And that song ended up playing, and they're like, what? He's gonna do this song? And I was like, that's the wrong one. And they're like, no, you got to sing it. You got to sing it. So I started singing, and I won the show.
Nice. Look at that.
I won the show, and I think it was like one of those like life-changing things in the sense of I knew I wanted to do music, but the funny thing was even after that happened, I get my degree, corporate communications. I'm working as a human resources director in Modesto, California, sitting behind a desk. Ended up moving back to Texas and then working at a retail store because, truth be known, I got a divorce.
I didn't know that.
I was married. I was living in Modesto, California. Didn't work out. So I got married, and a year and a month later got divorced. And I ended up moving back to Texas. Needed to get my head right. So I was like, before I jump into some corporate job, I'm just going to work in retail. So I was just folding clothes, T-shirts, and selling stuff, working for a friend at his boutique shop at the West Village. And then I ended up getting to meet Selena Gomez's mom, who then found out that I was into music or did music, and started helping me, kind of guide me through my career. And so she was kind of like one of the first people that like really believed in like my talent. And I like knew Selena when she was like so young, and
that's crazy.
And I learned a lot, from that process. But we kind of had a falling out when I auditioned for American Idol.
That's right.
I auditioned for American Idol, and I remember, you couldn't do American Idol if you had a manager.
Oh, I didn't know that.
No.
Okay.
And I remember like there was a kind of a disagreement about me doing that. And that's kind of where I regret it to this day.
Yeah. That's good. Sometimes opportunities come up and you gotta cut. You
do. I think that was one of the things that, I love and respect Mandy, that's her mom. And that was one of those things, if I could take it back, I would, because I ended up going out to New Orleans to audition and didn't go far at all. Did the whole thing where I went there. I did the X Factor. Mm-hmm. Like I did so many audition shows.
Was this before? This was before the Larry G when you were.
This is before Larry G. This is like right around before Otis.
Okay. Oh, okay.
And then Otis happened. But getting back to your question, I think like it was around all of those things that kind of like. I think after the whole winning the college thing,
yeah,
I think that's really what kind of set me off to like,
yeah,
that's what I want to do.
And especially when you had that, like you said earlier, the one thing that clicks is when you're going on stage and you're nervous, but you're confident in your abilities. You know you're doing something right. You're doing something that you're meant to do if you're comfortable and confident in your abilities. You know what I'm saying?
That's grown. That grew over time as far as like feeling confident to like know like I can go on any stage and do my thing.
Are you still, between all the creative stuff you're doing today, are you still doing anything in music? Yeah.
So the funny thing is I did Otis.
Right.
That was a cool little run there. And then did Larry G. Larry G was birthed like around 2010. Had the opportunity to go on the Warped Tour.
Yeah.
Which was a lot of fun. Toured the country, played a lot of music festivals, did some showcasing, like for labels.
Right. I remember seeing that performance on Jimmy Kimmel.
Went on Jimmy Kimmel, yeah.
Yeah.
And that in itself, that performance like really opened up a lot of doors. And I think even till this day, it's still something that to hang my hat on, to be able to like, that's really gotten me gigs still throughout this day with companies and whatnot, because they get to see that and then know that. But
yeah, it's great for the resume.
It is. It's good for the resume, but it's what you do about it that helps with that. I then, like during COVID, I had like a little COVID project called Cabus, CABUS, where it was more pop, indie pop, I guess you could call it. And then around the time between that when COVID hit, that project kind of like went stale, and I just did one EP, and that was it was a cool project. But in and around that time last year, or in and around that time, I kind of took a break from music in general and started working full time at this marketing, agency. And I, last year, I was having a problem with my eyesight. And so I was like having problem seeing. So I thought I attributed it to age. And so I was like, man, I'm probably losing my eyesight.
You're not old enough to be losing your eyesight.
Yeah. And so I go to an optometrist, and I'm getting my eyes checked. And he's like, we need to take a scan of your eyes. And he noticed some hemorrhaging on the eyelids. And so he's like, hey, I'm noticing some hemorrhaging here. Let me go check your blood pressure. So he checks my blood pressure. It's pretty high. It was 177. And he was like, we're going to have to stop this. And you're going to need to go to urgent care. So I'm like, this is weird. So he sends me to urgent care. I go to urgent care. Urgent care is like, yo, you're at 190. You need to go to Medical City right now. So I'm like, what? This is weird. So I go pick up my girlfriend, and we're going to the hospital, and I remember it vividly. I was like, don't worry about it, babe. We're just going to go. They're going to give me some meds, and I'll be fine. This was on May 15th, 2023. They checked my blood pressure there. It's 245 over 120. And they were like, we're going to keep you overnight. And that turned into 3 days and 2 nights. MRIs, CAT scans, and then a biopsy. And the biopsy revealed that I had stage 4-5 kidney disease, IgA nephropathy. So it was based off of hypertension, unchecked hypertension. Huh. When they say high blood pressure is a silent killer, it's very true. And so if anything, I'm more so an advocate now for people to really get that looked at, make sure you check your blood pressure, weekly. But I remember going to see my dad, who is a physician, and this is years before, and he would always tell me, you need to get this checked up. I didn't have insurance at the time, but I've always been scared of doctors.
Because you had high blood pressure regularly, or
my family has had a history of high blood pressure.
And is it because of this? Is this condition
It's because of that. It's because it was unchecked. In fact, the doctor told me, had I come to him 2 years before, that I probably wouldn't be in the stage that I'm in right now. And so, during that period, it rocked my world, man.
I bet
because I could get it if I was stage 3, but to be stage 5.
That means you need a new kidney, right?
Yeah, so give you some context. My kidney function was 9% when I was diagnosed. Wow. And so it was around that time between then in May to I would say August that I was trying to figure out, I was like a scientist trying to figure out what I needed to do to remedy this. Yeah. I knew that with kidney disease, you're never going to heal yourself, especially at the stage that I was in.
Right.
So what I did is I started reaching out with the help of a friend of mine. I found a plant-based doctor who I basically went through this program of learning how to eat plant-based. And what I was learning, I saw a lot of changes. So big shout out to Eric Payton from In Vivo. He basically covered all the costs for that program. But during that time, I was working with a doctor by the name of John McDougall. Look him up. He's famous. Unfortunately, he passed. But he's a doctor that's been one of those guys that's like, hold off on the meds. It's your diet that you need to work on.
Preventive and holistic.
Holistic, yeah, in a lot of ways. And so I did that. And I worked with Dr. McDougall. Dr. Lim is a guy that he works under. Look him up too.
For sure.
But just learning how to do that, my numbers went from like 9% to 15%.
Wow, that's okay.
All the way up to 18%. Then there was another doctor I was introduced to, and that doctor's name is Dr. Brooke Goldner, who had actually lupus and stage 4 kidney disease, but reversed it.
His own, okay.
Her own.
Oh, her own, okay.
Brooke Goldner.
Okay.
You can look her up, but she reversed her lupus and kidney disease and is free of it now by hypernourishing. So all she does, or all she tells her patients to do, is it's basically 2 big shakes a day, but it's a shake based with water and vegetables, and that's all that you're eating, and everything pretty much is raw vegetables. It's not fun.
Yeah.
I mean, for people who don't like that stuff, but
it keeps things simple though.
It keeps it simple, man.
That's
And
good.
it's one of those things that I've adapted this thing where it's just like I start my day with my shake. I have a shake at night. I eat clean now. I don't drink anymore.
You're eating meals in between those shakes though?
Yeah, but it's all vegetable stuff.
Okay.
I try to eat as clean as possible. I mean, I do have a problem when it comes to, I did have a food addiction that, I've never really talked about this, but I have definitely had a food addiction where, when people talk about eating their feelings and stuff, it's real.
For sure.
And I think that food addiction actually probably attributed to, my kidney disease as well, because I was eating so much processed food, junk food, fast food, and then also drinking, like that in itself. So now, like, all of that said, I'm sick, during this time, just getting diagnosed. And I remember going through just some old songs of mine. I found this folder of old songs in my Dropbox. And these were songs that were supposed to be the follow-up to my Larry G debut EP, Weekends. And I was like, man, I haven't released any of these songs. And it was during my walks, because I have to do like 20 or 15 to 20,000 steps a day.
I'm at 10 to 15. I talk about that every
love
morning, man.
that. Yeah.
Just get my mind
so
right.
For me, it's to help me, because when you get in the condition that I'm in, you can't necessarily do the physical things like,
high intensity stuff.
High intensity.
Zone 2 is the way to go for longevity.
So I've found that just walking is like helped like so much. But during these walks that I was listening to these songs, and then I remember thinking like it would be good to do this, but I had to talk to Bo Bedford to get his blessing. And it was like
the producer, right?
The producer, co-songwriter.
Yeah.
And it was during that time that I got a call from him out of the blue. And he was calling just to check up on me. Like, how are you doing? Like, and for me, I felt like it was a sign from God, or the universe, or whatever people believe in. And I just told him about the thing, and he was like, I would love it if you release a song. So I was like, I talked to my doctor, and I remember this is Dr. McDougall, and I asked him, I was like talking about my condition, and he's like, hey man, like, it's not going to get any better. This is going to be as good as it's going to get. Like, if your kidney function gets any better, it'll maybe get to 20. He's like, he was like, if I were you, Larry, he was like, I would do what makes you happy. He said, I would do something that you love, do like what makes you happy. And right then and there, I was like, I'm going to do this music thing. So I basically took those songs and started releasing them as if they were new again. Got some love from the local radio station here. And in May of this year, I released, it was fun. It was so crazy. It was the day that I was diagnosed. I had an EP release show and I released the EP that same day.
That's crazy. Wow.
And so that EP is out.
Bittersweet.
Yeah, it is bittersweet. That EP is out. I'm performing shows again, but I wouldn't say like I'm like as aggressively doing it as the Larry G thing, because obviously I've got bigger things that I've got to do. I'm listed now at UT Southwestern.
I saw.
Yeah. So I'm on a wait list for a kidney transplant, and I'm trying to just basically do everything I can to keep my numbers stable, because thankfully I've not had to go through dialysis.
Yeah.
And that's one thing, as far as like something not that I fight with every day, but I do see myself like as a fighter. Like every day is like a fight, and I'm just trying to do everything I can to like, keep those numbers stable and, keep going. And I think at the end of the day, like I know that I've got like a lot going against me when it comes to my health, but I'm still optimistic and strong-minded in the sense of like, I can't necessarily say I'm going to beat this thing.
Yeah.
But I'm going to live my life. I'm going to do music. I'm in honestly the best shape of my life, which is crazy to say that when you have like this chronic illness.
Right.
But I'm doing everything that I can do to control where I'm at. And I'm still doing music, but I'm also doing the photography thing, and I'm thinking of other different avenues to like.
It's probably opened up your mind.
It has, man. I've got so much more perspective on life in general. I see things a lot differently than I did before. I got a great therapist. I've got a great support system. My family, my friends, my girlfriend, have all been pillars of support. And I think like that's really important. Like I remember back in the day with Larry G, it was like just how many people were in my ear, like how big the circle of friends were. But then when
Smiling
all that stuff
hands.
went away, everything got small.
In a good way. Now that you look at it.
In a good way. Yeah. And now, because at the end of the day, who you really want are the people that really care about you.
Absolutely.
And if that's like on two hands or just one hand, I'll take that any day over everyone else, telling you that they've got your back. But because one thing I'll say is we get in our heads so much when it comes to
as creatives, especially
as creatives and putting stuff out.
Yeah.
And I'm going to say this in the most respectful way possible. When you get in your head and you think, what are people going to think? Like, oh, they're going to think this or they're going to think that. Nobody cares. Nobody cares because everyone else is just like you. They're thinking the same thing. Everyone is concerned about their own agenda. Yeah. So if I'm you or I'm me, this is why I was like, yeah, these songs are old, but I don't care. Yeah. I'm going to release everything and I'm going to play this script up like it's brand new. Yeah. And it is brand new in a way. And so I am playing these songs again, and I am doing shows as Larry G again. And I'm having the time of my life now because I don't care what other people think.
And you're enjoying it a lot more.
I'm enjoying it. I'm like, there's so much more. And also too, there's a difference between like, playing a show after a number of shots before you go on stage, or having a buzz, or you know what I'm saying, as opposed to doing a show full blown sober.
Right.
I've gotten more gratification out of doing that just because I see the crowd's reaction. I feel the crowd's reaction. I feel the energy in the room.
You're more present.
Yeah. And I'm more present. And not to say that I feed off of the crowd. I've learned to like just feed off the love of what I'm doing. And I think like when you can just like love and not care about what other people are thinking or saying, I think that says so much like moving forward.
Yeah.
So, like, I'm dealing with what I'm dealing with, but there are people who are dealing with worse.
I think things like this that happen are sometimes blessings in disguise. And I think that, do you know what the approximate wait time usually is?
So unfortunately, my blood type is O. So we can donate to anyone.
Right.
But it has to be O for us.
I see.
And because of that, the wait list is typically 4 years.
4 years.
So it's really, the tables are, like it's a lot of stuff stacked against me, but I'm still hell bent on the idea that with discipline, diet, exercise and stuff, I can hold it off.
The fact that you've been able to go up from 9 to 15 to the mid-teens to
I went up to 18 is the highest.
Okay.
I mean, recently that I checked, it was 15, but I went to 12 and then I went to 15 or 18 and then it
kind of fluctuates around that number, but
and
it's
remember
above.
the GFR is kind of just like a percentage.
Right.
The creatinine levels also too. So it's always creatinine and GFR are like the things that I look at whenever I do my blood work. That's one thing that I'm like really into now is like
I'm sure. Yeah,
the blood work.
You've done your homework too.
Doing my homework, but just staying diligent about it. And another thing that I do every day is I do heat and cold therapy, where I basically sit in a sauna for close to an hour, and then I go right into a cold plunge. And I remember when I first started doing cold plunge, it was like 30 seconds in, 30 seconds out, and back because it was so cold.
How long are you holding it now?
10 minutes. Like I can do
How cold's the water?
It's cold.
Like 30, 40, do you know?
I don't know exactly, but I know it's
a long
cold.
time, dude.
Yeah, but I've learned to like love it.
That's great. It's good for you. It's
I
great.
mean, I'm trying not to do, they basically say like between 3 and 5 minutes is good. And so, but I'm a creature of habit now, like when it comes to that. And, there's no scientific thing that says that it changes anything.
Yeah, it does. I'm sure.
But I know it helps with the blood flow.
Blood flow for sure.
Because blood flow with your kidneys is the most important thing.
Right.
They're always like,
shuttle more oxygen
and it's been good to like be an advocate for people. I know I've actually met some people through this that are going through what I'm going through or worse. And now to be able to tell them about some of the things that I've learned is like really helped me out. It's also kind of like put I wouldn't say a damper, but as patients or people going through things, you have to learn how to be an advocate for yourself. You cannot just rely on listening respectfully to your doctor telling you what you need to do. And the reason, case in point with that, is I remember after getting diagnosed, my doctor was telling me you can still drink, like you can have a drink, couple of drinks a night. Then he was saying you can eat some meat, like you can go to Chick-fil-A, and you think about how much sodium is like in all that food, and I'm like thinking like I was like that's not making sense to me.
Right. I mean, you need some salt, but not that much.
Yeah. When you look at it from the bigger picture, and I'm not saying all doctors like this. My dad is a doctor, so I have a respect for doctors in medicine. But there are people that'll look at you like, they'll look at you like a number. And when I say that respectfully in the sense of if they get you on dialysis, they're making money because you're buying machines and this and that. And I wasn't just about to jump on the dialysis machine. The first nephrologist I had was really pushing me to do that. And so I took it upon myself to be an advocate and found a second opinion. And that doctor is working with me now. along the lines of which I would want to do.
Right.
And so, yeah, I'm listed right now. I'm hopefully.
Well, and it's been well over a year since you've been diagnosed.
Yeah, but I just got listed, so
right. But I'm saying you've reversed. I mean, your numbers have gotten better, and
your numbers have gotten better, man. And I still plan on continuing to live my life as if I didn't have it. When I got sick a few months later, my dad fell ill while on a trip in DC.
Mm-hmm.
And it turned out he had issues with his heart.
I remember that.
He ended up getting a quadruple bypass surgery.
Mm-hmm.
And it rocked, it rocked everyone. But to see him go through what he went through was like, wow, man, I can't be complaining. Like I think
what a badass.
To watch him go through what he went through and where he's at now, like he's going to the gym like twice a day. He's back on his grind, like doing his health vlogs and stuff. And he's retired now. That surgery retired him because he was active, as far as he was still working at the hospital.
Yeah.
No longer doing that anymore, but he's in like better health than he was before. He's got a great mindset, and he's a big inspiration to like how I, want to carry, move along with life and stuff. Like there's only so much time in this world.
I got to share something with you. So, I carry this in my pocket.
Yeah.
And everybody's struggles different. So, like you were saying, some people have it worse, some people have it better, but, I carry this coin in my pocket. I'm kind of pretty big into Stoic philosophy.
Yeah.
And it's called a memento mori coin. And a big part of the philosophy is knowing you will die. Memento mori means remember you must die. On the back says memento vivere, remember to live. And I carry this coin, and a lot of Stoics carry this coin too, to remind yourself that not look at it in a negative viewpoint, right? To remind you to cherish the things that you do have. And the time that you have is finite, and to do things that are going to bring you joy. And it helps cut. You remember you were talking earlier about cutting out the clutter of what people are thinking about you. Those kinds of negative thoughts that like can take time and energy from you.
Yeah.
Things like this and realizing that it could end tomorrow really help put things into perspective. I love that, man. And for me, like, I've never been, I've wanted to be religious, like, you know, find my version of God, whether it's through Judaism, which I was raised, and Catholicism, which I've been exposed to, but I've never been able to kind of connect with the religion in that sense, because a lot of it seems for me just very too man-made, right? And so it's hard for me to put my faith in that. And so this philosophy is a form of faith in that sense. And it has, part of the philosophy means living with arete, which means living with excellence. And there's basically being the best version of yourself. There's 4 key virtues in Stoicism, but long story short, it's completely changed my life. And it's something that's really personal. It's not something, I try not to go shouting over the mountaintops, although it has helped my life for the better. I've read a lot of Marcus Aurelius and Seneca, and those were a lot of the founders of great minds of the Stoic philosophy. But I think just at the end of the day, it's trimming out the fat of life that is causing you pain, whether it's physical, whether a lot of it is emotional, and we create a lot of emotional pain in our heads. And I think when you realize, like, hey, I'm not here for that long. We're not here for that long. Don't want to get too morbid. My wife's great uncle, who I just saw not too long ago, just had a dizzy spell a few days ago, tripped, fell, broke his vertebrae in his neck, and passed away. So just like that, like one morning, and then he couldn't breathe. They put him on breathing tubes, and they stopped his tube I think a couple of days ago.
Oh my gosh!
But it's like you said, man. It can be whether you have we all have our stories, but I think keeping those into perspective help you be present for sure. Yeah.
Yes. Yes, 100%. Like, man, that's sorry to hear about that.
No, yeah, I mean,
That's crazy. It can all change in a blink of an
yeah,
eye.
exactly. Yep. Yeah, exactly. Um, so let's see here. Do you feel oh, here's a good one talking about being fully present. Do you think your best when do your best ideas come when you're in that creative space? Like when you're in a creative space, not trying to segue back into it, but yeah, if when you're in a creative space, for me, you talked about performing, right? When you're on stage and you're not, you don't have a drink and you're completely sober, like allows you to be present, and that allows you to just be there more and fully enjoy it. And I found, for me at least, my best creative moments are when I'm fully engrossed in the moment and not in my head as much overthinking things. Because as creatives, we tend to think a lot,
Yeah.
You're always thinking about whatever your art, your craft, or your thoughts, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And I think that for me, what helps me the most is being centered and present, But what are some for you?
It's really weird. Like for me, when it comes to like, when I feel like I accomplished the most is like when I'm in a room where there's space, where it's like me. I don't know. It's almost a feng shui kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like I write music best when the space is sparse and it's clean, like visually.
Mm.
It's always been like that for me. But I feel like that's when I'm at my best. Maybe it's because like too many things get me thinking, the TV's there or something's there. Like I have ADHD. So
I think I do too. I just haven't been diagnosed with it. I think
you
I
know
do.
what I mean? But I think your best ideas can come at any moment. The thing though that happens is being proactive enough to get down
Mm-hmm.
a pencil or whatever and actually put it down, as opposed to, and this is one thing that I've fallen victim of, is an idea will come into my head and I'll compartmentalize it and say like, I'll get back to that later. And then I'll try and I can't think about it anymore.
Well, I mean, the fact that you're able to I have a hard time doing that. For me, it's like if I'm in a creative space, I think I might not have ADHD, it might be OCD, but like when I'm in that creative space, I physically can't stop thinking about that idea until I feel like it has some sort of conclusion. You know what I'm saying? Which is kind of bad because then it like that prevents me from being present because I'm always thinking about whether it's a creative idea.
I wish I could do that, man. I wish I had that power.
Maybe somewhere in between.
Yeah, it's like this has happened a lot. Here's the thing, album's out, but I need to start writing for the next thing.
Yeah,
because I am thinking about putting out like another album. So I will be interested to see like what comes of that, because I know exactly how I want to work it and what I need to do as far as putting myself in that clear space to being alone and giving myself some time to do that. I think like for me, being able to be creative, I have to block out time to where I'm not being bothered, and I can focus for X amount of hours and really commit to it. So it's like just making sure I've got everything else on the outside taken care of.
right. Yeah,
Yeah.
that makes sense. And then when you're writing these songs, this is all for you 100%.
Yeah.
So when you're writing, do you ever feel like conflicted between writing for yourself versus what you think your listeners are going to want to hear? Like, do you feel like, is there kind of the confliction between like, oh, this is the style they're expecting, or this is what they're wanting. Every artist has that creative album of theirs that like where they go off on a deep tangent. Sometimes it pays off, sometimes it doesn't, but they don't care because it's their creative outlet. Do you feel like you're ever having to struggle with the balance between the two?
When I was younger, I would totally, it had to be my way. I had to do it like this. Only up until recently did I open myself up to like working with other songwriters, who basically laid out the lyrics to everything. It really wasn't my story,
Right.
and I was singing their melodies and everything like that. And that process was like kind of hard. And I guess you could kind of say like me doing something, with the thought of it will work because this is what's popping right now.
Right.
I think doing that, taking that chance because of that, I think that's normal. You know, like I think sometimes you just got to try it. But I've always been open to like, I was always open to that idea, but I think now having gone through again, like what I said, what I've gone through, I could care less what like other things are like, whatever, what's hot now these days. I think moving forward, whatever I do or whatever I put out is going to be what I want to do.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah. I think we all kind of go through facets of like how much we're trying to, what we think people want to hear or listen, whether it's or what they want to see, you know. Like my example with my purpose with this podcast is trying to answer. My mission is always it's about answering the why versus the how. Like, why are you doing this? More the psychological side of things, I guess that would be. And so long as it's checking off that checkbox, then I'm gonna try to get people to want to listen to this. But at the end of the day, it's like a creative outlet that I feel like is bringing me some sort of purpose and pleasure in that sense. So I think that's the most rewarding thing an artist can do is like when you're not doing it for the money. You know, obviously if the money's there, that's great. But like if you're doing it and there's a clear line cut, I feel like this is fulfilling me. I feel like I'm providing a service and whatever it is. I think that's the important thing.
I think when your intentions are pure, you can go anywhere with it. Even if your intentions are, I'm going to write a song because I want to get a hit.
Yeah. Right.
That's fine. As long as you're being honest with it, you know,
how you write it
how you write it and your purpose. So anyways, like a good way, it's just depending upon like what you want to do.
I know you've got ahead in a few minutes, but I wanted to, you said 12:15, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I want just a couple more. I don't want you.
We can do 12:30.
Okay, cool. I want to see first what's, let's see. Are you familiar with something called imposter syndrome?
Yeah, but break it down to me.
So like, I felt it and I still deal with it from time to time. But for example, I've been teaching piano for 14 going on 15 years now.
Yeah.
And to this day, it's gotten better, but I've always felt like sometimes a bit of a fraud with it, in the sense that like I'm not good enough to achieve results. And I have been. I've got a wait list with students, but it's always in the back of my mind, this idea of not being good enough. Or for example, I got a pretty big, I was doing the music for a big ad campaign for a company. And they were using a famous song by the Isley Brothers. And their license was ending, and I was like, okay, so I have to follow that song and write something like that, and they wanted something in a similar vein. And the whole time I'm like, I don't belong. Like, I can't do this. Kind of that kind of mentality. That's the imposter syndrome, where you don't feel like you feel like you're an imposter, that you shouldn't be doing this because you aren't worthy of it. And even, that I'm confident in my skills, I still get that from time to time from both of those facets.
You described 100% how I felt like at that creative job.
Yeah.
Like where I just towards the end, I didn't feel like I was good enough. The feedback that I was getting and stuff, even though like I had the skills,
right,
like to do what I needed to do.
Right.
It really got in my head.
I think part of that's because in that case, and in my case with the clients for this song, for the production of that, is if you could write what you want, when it gets really targeted and you're not true to express your art as you want it, it has to be this way, like this, like that. It takes away some of the artistry side of it, like your creative outlet, so you don't quite. No, it's not like it's not your niche. You don't feel comfortable with it. It's like, for example, if you're a great soul singer and then your band decides to become a pop act and you're like, I don't know much about pop, and I can kind of maybe try to sing pop, but it's not my wheelhouse. And so you don't feel comfortable in that vein. Yeah. So that could be part of it. It's like, it's not your comfort zone.
Right. Dude, you just said that. Like I've heard this thing for the longest time.
Yeah.
And I've been like, what does that mean? You broke it down, and I'm like, that's how I felt.
Yeah.
That's how I felt at work, man. And I think like, yeah, that's probably why I was like so not as happy on the inside.
Right. If, for me with photography, so I was, and I'll share some photography with you because
Sure.
I know you do too, but I love doing creative action stuff in photography. I was doing like karate school's action stuff that with black background, very dramatic and stuff.
Yeah.
But whenever I was doing weddings, I'm like, I didn't feel up to snuff, and it's a different beast altogether. And I'll never do weddings again. I just thought I was going to get into it. When I did do weddings, I was like, I suck. Even though they like the pictures and everything like that, I was like, and I think it has to do with, again, it not being your comfort. You're out of your comfort zone. I think that's what it is.
Yeah. I'm resonating with this right now, dude. Like my mind is opening up to it because, yeah, I remember like turning in work and knowing inside I was like, this is not. This is
me or something.
I'm not good at this. Like
Right.
I'm not good at this, and they're not gonna like it. You know, like I just felt like I wasn't. I just didn't feel like it was me.
Right. Yeah. It wasn't you, so it couldn't click. It goes back to what you were saying. If what you're doing is honest and resonating and it has purpose, I think
There were some things that I would do for them at the company where I was like, this is 100% me. Boom. And I felt confident and it resonated with the work.
Yeah.
But then there was stuff that I was doing to appease them.
And you knew.
And I knew it was just shit.
Right.
Sorry.
Yeah, that's all right. No worries. No, it's all good. You can fucking curse, man. It's all good.
Yeah, man. Well, I was fucked in the head for a while then. Yeah.
If you had to give one piece of advice to your younger self starting out, what would it be?
Wow, that is such a good question. So there's so many things I would tell myself.
Yeah.
Trust your instincts.
Trust your instincts.
Trust your instincts.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. Trust your instincts and guard those instincts.
Yeah.
Because, you know, there are probably so many decisions that I made that I could have done on my own that I didn't because I was afraid of what other people thought, or I was just trying to please everyone else. And I've always been a people pleaser up until this day because I never wanted to rock the boat. And I'm going through therapy with this right now. Mm-hmm. It's something that I dealt with as a child and, you know, dealing with now, like in my relationships with, you know, friends, family, lovers. You know, it's like my girlfriend, where you say the things that you want, that you think people want to hear you say, or you do the things that you think people want you to do instead of like doing what you want to do, speaking up for yourself.
Yeah.
And that's one thing that I wish I could tell my younger self is go with your gut.
Trust your instincts.
Yes.
That's great advice. Yeah. Same here. Luckily, you know, my wife has a very strong personality in that sense. And she's, that's rubbed off on me a lot.
That's awesome.
Because for me, it was exactly people pleaser would say, you know, say the things that I think would want to hear and I think that how completely candid and upfront she was threw me back, and it was almost like a deterrent at first, and then it became like, oh wait, this is
I
how
could
people should
totally
be.
tell meeting her, her energy right there.
Yeah. she
it's like my girlfriend too is the same way, where she's like, she is raw as they come.
Yeah.
And I think like that's why, you know, like I love her like so much, is because it's always good to be with someone who's going to keep it real with you.
Yeah.
Keep it 100.
Will also bring out the better side of you, right?
Yeah, but is also going to tell you things like,
call you out on your bullshit.
Yeah, like relationships, people go through fights. Like nothing is perfect,
right.
You know, and rather than all the the fluff, let's get real with each other.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's just more real conversations, more real like everything moving forward in my life. You know, it's more real connections and stuff.
Yeah. No time for the fluff, man.
No,
Trim
man.
the fat.
Trim the fat.
How has what's happened, recently with your health, how is that obviously trimming the fat and, getting to that point? How has that also helped with your creative process? Has that affected your creative process as far as whether it's writing or anything you're doing creative? Do you feel like this shift in perspective of, living the life, being present, how has that helped you create?
Well, I think, actually, I know when I start putting stuff to pen, it's going to be amazing, because I think right now I'm in such a really good space when it comes to just having a clear mind, man, and not waking up with a hangover. You really start seeing things a lot clearer.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like when I get to it, because obviously I've got so many things that I'm like trying to like take care of when it comes to like my health and whatnot.
Yeah.
As far as focusing, but when I actually sit myself down, which is going to be soon, to like get on this new music, I think it's going to be great. I know it is.
Nice.
I'm speaking that into existence.
That's good. Willing it.
I am, man. Yeah. And that's really crazy, man.
What
like
there's a book about it.
Manifesting is a real thing.
Yeah.
Do you believe in that stuff?
I believe that we hold ourselves back.
Yeah.
And I think that manifesting is the opposite of the negative thoughts that prevent you from achieving certain things.
Yeah.
The fear of failure. So if like I know, listen, hey, I want to start this podcast, and there's a billion podcasts out there, and so there's not a chance that this is going to make it. Versus, I don't care. I'm going to make this podcast because I enjoy it and it brings me something. And if something happens, then so be it. I think willing is definitely the next step up. It's like, no, this is going to be huge. And I think I would like to have that mindset, because I don't have it. I like as much as I'd like to.
I think you can totally get it, man. I think it's really all inside here and everything like that. I know like a lot of the things that happen, like in the whole Larry G like thing, or even the Otis stuff, I would imagine it before it happened, and then it happened. Like crazy.
That's crazy.
Like crazy. Like I would see it and it would happen. And it's really crazy, because when I started putting out the music again, I thought in my head, I was like, this is going to pick up steam. I'm going to play South by Southwest. I got an official invite to play South by Southwest this year.
That's awesome, dude.
Out of the blue.
No way. That's sick.
Out of the blue.
That's
and it
amazing.
was like, this show happened.
So these thoughts are specific.
Yeah.
I'm going to get South by, you get South by.
Yeah.
Right. So do you feel, so the goal in mind has to be something specific. It has to be a targeted, this is going to happen.
This is going to happen, or something regarding the music is happening. And this is like a little bit more on the religious, not, you know what I'm saying? Where I started seeing like the reaction to the music.
Mm.
And I remember having a conversation with God, and I was like, yo, I don't know what's going on, man, but I'm just trusting you on this. Like I told him, like, whatever this is, like, this isn't me now. This is like, this is you. Like, I'm going to just follow your lead kind of thing. But at the same time, I'm also got my notebook, and I'm manifesting like I will raise my GFR, like writing that down 20 times.
So you're specific. You're very okay.
I will raise my GFR.
Right, specific.
I'll play at South by Southwest, and like those things started happening, and I believe in all that kind of stuff. Like, I think you have to just be intentional, but you have to like really go into it without any doubt or no, people, cynicism is like when you start doubting yourself and you're like, man, it's not good, or
It shows in your work
this
too.
is not going to happen. Yeah.
Yeah.
When it's not half-assing it, but when you go in without confidence is everything. Like
Right.
being confident and putting that down on paper that this is going to happen. Oh, it's going to happen.
Yeah. But also if that fear is looming, I think again, it takes back away from you being present. And when you're not present, you can't fully immerse yourself in whatever act you're doing. And therefore you're half-assing it without even knowing it. You're basically sabotaging yourself.
Yeah,
it happens.
you are.
Yeah.
You're sabotaging yourself of these opportunities that are like bound to like happen for you. I'm speaking it right now into existence on your show that I know a lot of other good things are coming my way. Like I can see it. It's a feeling too.
That's great.
Like I feel like with my numbers, like with my health,
Yeah.
I was like, I think I'm turning this thing around, and I went to 18, that's a scary number to some people. But when you've already gotten low,
half at that. Yeah. You've been
when you're low at that, like there's nowhere to go but, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I think the mind is a powerful thing. Your thoughts are powerful.
For sure.
So if you like have negative thoughts or you have doom and gloom thoughts, it's going to happen.
Yeah.
But if you keep like that mentality of like fighting and just like you're driven, like good things are going to happen.
Yeah. And that's a big part of why I espoused a lot of the philosophy of Stoicism, because a big part of it espouses removing thoughts that give you no positive. Like if you're thinking about something that's a negative thought, then there is no purpose to it. There's no good that comes from it. And once you train yourself to stop thinking that way and getting these thoughts out, a big part of it is control, right? Relinquishing things that you can and can't control. And a big part of fear of in that nature, fear of failure, is trying to control things that are outside of your control. But all I can do is give it this 100%. And if I've put all my thought into it and it doesn't happen, I'm not going to be upset at the outcome. I'm going to be happy with the outcome because I gave it everything I could, and everything beyond that was outside of my hands. It's a bit like the serenity prayer, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's a big part.
Yes.
And there's a lot of similarities between
right.
the two. But knowing what you can and can't control, and then and having the wisdom to differentiate between the two, and then accepting what you can't.
I think controlling, you hit it on the head, control what you can control.
Yeah.
I get up every day. I know what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
I'm going to make that shake.
Yeah.
I'm going to walk my steps.
Yeah.
I'm going to try to book some photography gigs. I'm going to try to book some shows,
Yeah.
And it's like clockwork every day. And I know somewhere along the lines, when you put the work in, the results will speak for themselves.
That's awesome. That's great, man. So speaking of upcoming work, where can people find you right now?
So on Instagram, you can find me on the Larry Gee Music. Same with TikTok, although I'm pretty much active on the Larry Gee Music. And then Facebook, it's the Larry Gee Music, but the name is still Cabas because I wasn't able to change it yet.
Right.
So I'm trying to fix that.
I'll link those in the video.
But
you got any new tunes? You can.
Well, the new EP is out. It's called The Get Back.
Nice.
2013 to 2016. That's the whole
great.
like the title, because those are songs like from that time period. And I'm pushing that, and I'm just looking forward to the future, man.
That's great, man. This is awesome. Do you have any one of those tunes that you'd like to play?
Actually, I'll play you a new tune.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Awesome.
This one, I can do that.
What's it called?
Slip Away.
Slip Away. All right, we're gonna get set up and then have you get carried away, man. This is awesome, man.
All right, so this actually is an oldie, but I'm gonna re-release it on my own as a solo project. So it's called Slip Away. Deep in the night, time quickly passed us by. I guess it ticked away. They say I'm not myself. Well, could you blame myself? I guess we'll sit and wait. And I say, ooh, 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 ooh. Let it slip away. And I say, ooh, 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 ooh. Let it slip away. No more sun, she stole my shine. Cloudy days are filled with wine. I guess I'll sip away. Shattered glass across the floor got me begging, want more. Because she wouldn't say. And I say, ooh, 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 ooh. Let it slip away. And I say, ooh, 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 ooh. Let it slip away. And I feel it in the morning, waiting on my sunrise. Introduce myself to sadness, 'cause the truth doesn't lie. And if by chance we meet again, Lord, I hope we meet again. I hope you look my way. They say I'm not myself. Well, could you blame myself? I guess we'll sit and wait. And I say, ooh, 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 ooh. Let it slip away. And I say, ooh, 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 ooh. Let it slip away. Everything's gonna be alright. Everything's gonna be alright. Everything's gonna be alright. Everything's gonna be alright.
All right, man.
Yeah,
That
man.
was awesome.
Thanks, dude.
Good job, man. That was so
Appreciate
good.
it,
Love
man.
the song, man. Good
Thank
stuff,
you,
man.
bro. Thank you, man. Great guitar.